Hey, Vinnie, thanks for having me. It is great to meet you. It's a pleasure to be speaking with Deal Architect. Appreciate we had a follow-up from our Workday Ventures, Get to Know You Day. And I thought what we do this morning, I appreciate the platform of 15, 20 minutes to talk about Jobcase. And I thought about the opportunity with you and the people who really appreciate your great writing and conversations to really share the problem we're addressing, how we're going about it, hear a little bit from the workers themselves. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you what I think is a formula that's got a lot of success that can be replicable by other companies as well. So if we're economical, we'll kind of run at a pretty fast clip to cover all that in the next 15, 20 minutes.
Thank you.
So, this is a slide I've been having since we got the vision of Jobcase in 2014, 15. And I'm presuming consumers of a lot of your great content writing understand this massive shift that we're doing. But this now is captured by the phrase future of work, right? And that wasn't really a phrase back in 14, 15 when we were starting to construct Jobcase.com. And fundamentally what it is to me is this notion that you're no longer going to have a long-term relationship with a single employer. It's going to be very, very much about frequent job changes, frequent movement, cobbling together income, 1099s versus W-2s, AI displacements, just all sorts of challenges. And yet our ecosystem really wasn't designed for this. And people don't have a support network, let alone training in an education system to help prep them for this. And so the idea was at its core, if we don't have a platform that helps people lean into this, it could be a really, really bad future of work. But we're pretty optimistic. If there's a platform that allows you to take advantage of the same tech that might put your job put you out of a job, but could give free online education to retrain, like say a cashier losing their job could retrain as a medical billing specialist, as a Salesforce operations, then it's a really wonderful time period. So this is really our moment where we're thinking we need to really help the workers of the world, because there's lots of platforms for knowledge workers. LinkedIn's a great platform for knowledge workers, but it's missing 80% of the population. So when we look at it from our perspective, and I hit a few of these, it's the independent workforce, it's the gigs, it's the AI displacement. We know the Oxford study done with McKinsey, I think back in, what was it, around 2013 or something, saying 47% of jobs are going to be replaced by the year 2030. We know about the skills gap. We know about the network gap. I think these are all very tactical things. There's also macro elements, wage stagnations, the inequities that we see in our system with capitalism being out of balance. And what I've seen since then, Vinny, is it's moving so fast, right? It's just we're kind of past we're definitely on the logarithmic scale of change that humans are having to deal with. And so it was only a few years ago, we were talking about the types of things that AI could displace, about object identification, speech recognition and language, problem solving, interaction with the physical world. But the punchline of these is the best AI systems are already better than the average human performance. So time's really not our friend at dealing with this future of work on an individual basis on how we're going to deal with this. But when Jobcase looks, we also think at a macro level. So we think that capitalism's out of balance. We think that that is something that's very, very dangerous to workers and shareholders alike for long-term stability. The two charts, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but maybe some in the audience haven't seen, that I think are most compelling, has to do with the share of wealth in the US the top 1% have versus the bottom 50% of earners have. And that has just really diverged, as you know, and this chart ends in 2016. I mean, we know what's happened in the last 18 months on the other side of COVID, so it's only more exaggerated. But what that really presents, that's really scary, is the percent of generations. So if you look at 1945, like if you were born in 1945, by the time you were 30, 85% of people's earnings were more than that of their parents. So that's the American dream. Your kids get ahead, they do better, et cetera. Since 1980, it's been less than 50%. Had a little bit of bump, and now it's below. So when you hear the younger generations, Gen Z or millennials, as we as Gen Xers or say boomers and those generations hear the concerns, these are very real. It is not the way it used to be. It's harder to get ahead. And I think that's a very dangerous thing for a sustainable society, very dangerous thing for a sustainable workforce. And so how do we fix that? How do we be part of the solution? that's what we've been trying to do at Jobcase. Before I get to that, I thought it would be interesting. Let me hit and just have some of the workers that we work with talk. So it's about 2 minutes, but I'm guessing you have a lot of CEOs, a lot of people talk. Let's hear about the workers and how they're thinking about this. This will be about two plus minutes just to gauge your expectations. So we asked them, what's your biggest concern when you think about managing your work life going forward into the future?
Over the next year, I'd say it's just a matter of gaining the technical skills to perform the job, as well as management skills. At 10 years, it might become education with upper management, moving up into that level. And then around 25 years, it becomes a question of competing with automation.
I tend to work a lot of hours, so it's hard to kind of balance that between actually having a personal life. I would say long-term work goal-wise would definitely be like continuing education, making sure you're staying relevant to what's going on in your field.
I think the tricky part is 10 years, because we don't know what changes are going to evolve regarding the workplace. And we don't know what tasks are going to be automated. We don't know what software is going to come out that will replace people. So the question comes is, do the skills I have right now, will the skills I have right now take me through 10 years?
Just how fast will I change my mind, you know? I mean, we're made to have to make up our mind on what we want to do for the rest of our life so quick. And, you know, by the time I'm 25, I might already have changed my mind, but I went to college for just one career. And, you know, I don't know, it's kind of scary, you know? I have to make my mind up by the time I'm 13, but I might live till I'm 90. That's a long time to do the same thing. When it comes to skill sets, I think the market will change in the next 10 years. I mean, just look at 10 years ago in factories. First, people just had to be able to, like, pull a lever and push a button. Now you got to know basic coding and, understand a little bit of robotics nowadays just to make a freaking pizza. And that's kind of crazy for me because, I mean, everything's gonna be automated nowadays. And what if you don't have the skill set and some kid comes up right behind you and just knocks you right out of the seat? And that's very possible. But I'm supposed to be able to keep this job until, the day I retire.
So, Jeff Bezos has this great saying about company strategy. What's the thing that won't change going forward? And for us, I think it's anxiety about the future. You can hear people, they get it, right? They get that skills are gonna be antiquated. They get it, they have to get on the training, but it's not clear where or how. Right.
The interesting thing is I was in Wyoming last month and I was amazed. A lot of history there, right? Because it's national parks and so on. So I went to the Buffalo Bill Museum there. And, Buffalo Bill, bison hunter and so on, right? What was fascinating was to see his career path. He started off as one of the Pony Express riders when he was 14 or 15. Then he joined the U.S. Army as a scout. Then he was a bison hunter, buffalo hunter. And then he started his own, the Wild West show and so on. I saw so many people in that generation that didn't know what would come next, but they would grab whatever they could find, right?
Yeah.
I think that's missing in this generation. We want certainty. I mean, the market has been, there are 6 million unfilled jobs before the pandemic, and young workers didn't want them, right? They want white collar jobs. It's like, listen to the market. You don't have to work at something all your life. You could be a starter job. It could be a 5-year job, right? So I think that's part of the disconnect with the younger generation is I think they want certainty, and I don't know if you can give them certainty. But I'd love to hear your feedback.
Well, it's an interesting observation. I wouldn't limit it to generationally. I think we as humans in general appreciate certainty. I think most anxiety comes from uncertainty. So whether you're Gen X or, but I do think that what is really hard for us in this era we live in is that's almost impossible going forward. The rate of change is just too fast, and in really good things too. It doesn't mean like, oh, it's a bunch of bad stuff. Like, look at the speed at which human life expectancy is going to evolve over the next 20, 30 years. It's going to be remarkable. And then how do we deal with that impact on all sorts of societal norms? I mean, from marriage to pensions to retirement. And so that should be a good thing. Life expectancy is changing, but I think the issue is it's just a lot of change. It's a lot of change coming. And I don't know if we as a species are hardwired for change that much. And so in the rooms that I'm usually in with people like Rachel with Guild and, Workday and things of this nature, the best thing you can do for a workforce is make sure you're training to train, right? We want people to be lifetime learners.
Sure.
Like that's what we have to do, just to have this expectation that, yep, what I'm learning today is great for now, but I know that I have to learn something new in 3 or 4 years, and I just don't know what it is yet. And to find a way of being comfortable with that. That's, I think, that would be the greatest success and the biggest challenge. But Vinnie, I don't think our K through 12 is set up for that. I don't think we're
You're
getting
right.
people into that mental state.
You're right. The other thing, since you deal with a number of younger workers, is I think there's been a little too much emphasis on our middle class has disappeared. I've been doing research for a potential book called The Invisible Middle Class. And if you look at some of the metrics, right, the retirement accounts of the middle class, not Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, about $35 trillion right now. Their 401ks, the IRAs, and so on. If you look at Costco has 90 million members around the world. Most of them are in the US. The average income there is $100,000. That's the middle class right there. I got so many metrics on our strong middle class. We just don't hear enough about that. We hear a lot of, yes, there is no question. If you compare the top and the bottom, it's growing, right? But there's a strong middle that we don't focus enough on. And I keep telling young people, look, trust me, become a carpenter, you won't be hungry all your life. If you become an electrician, you won't become. We need to show them that there are paths to the middle class that I don't think enough people are talking about.
Well, I mean, 2 thoughts there. One, I would love to see your data, because I'm one of the people pretty worried about the middle class. So I'd love to see that. That would be encouraging. Your last comment, though, man, I mean, preach. I love what you said. I think we have an unfortunate development in our culture. I think I call it kind of the bourgeois barbecue problem, right? Like if you're in a suburb of any moderate sized city, let alone big city, and your kid just graduated high school, everybody wants to say, what college is your kid going to? And it's almost like embarrassing if you're like, oh, my kid's not going to college. And yet we know what you just said, the facts are, like, who's better off? The person who goes to and God bless the people who do this. I'm not saying it's not a good path for some people. But if you go get like a communications degree from Bowling Green State and come out with $150,000 of debt, or say you get a welding certificate, who's going to have better earning power, more secure stability in their career, and et cetera? We know about these paths in the trades and everything, and that is not where AI is displacing jobs. AI is displacing paralegals and financial analysts and people in radiologist labs, because it's about knowledge workers are starting to be displaced by AI. The blue collar workers, I mean, heck, man, that started in the 50s. Like we've been dealing with that in Detroit for years. It's kind of at a normal,
What's interesting is those blue collar jobs are becoming supplemented with automation, right? You look at the shop floors, if you look at roofing, I mean, there's a lot of technology that's come into every trade. So, they need to be, these are not the old jobs. These are new jobs with a lot of technology that is helping them. So it's actually exciting professions if you think about it.
Exactly, right? Like you nailed it. This is like, you just nailed our whole view of Jobcase. We think it's exciting, but the question is, how do you figure it out? How do you navigate to it? How do you even know this is there? What skills do you need? Who can help you do this, right? And so this whole conversation is really what in 2014, 15, when my co-founders and I were running transactional job boards and had a lot of AI tech and things, and we were saying we want to do something more meaningful with our lives. What do we do? It was this realization that if people lean into it, it actually can be really, really wonderful. But how do you figure it out? You need tools. And then what we figured out is, for most people, you need a community to help you. It's remarkable the difference it makes to have another human being. You don't even have to know them. Just say, yeah, you can do this too. Don't give up. I had a friend who did this. Or here's the course that you can get, whatever, training at $7,000 because it's a community college instead of $25,000 because it's the wrong. There's plenty of for-profit colleges that are good, but the wrong for-profit. All that informal information You need a community to help you with that. And that's what we're doing, Vinnie. That's Jobcase. So this is, here's our platform. Like at the end of the day, what does empowering workers mean? Our mission is to empower workers. It means a place where they can figure out and achieve their next step, right? It's for 80% of the workforce. I mean, I should take that back. It's for 100%. It's a very inclusive thing, but we very much focus on the baristas and the mechanics and the cashiers. 15% of our members do have college degrees. They tend to be my friends I grew up with in Toledo that run at Kinko's, not people that are doing enterprise sales, networking with second degree connections. We're a complement to LinkedIn, right? Not a competitor of LinkedIn. The way we do it, we think about job cases on these 3 dimensions. When we build it, we think if you care about others, if you know you got to drive your own work-life success, because at the end of the day, we can't do it for you, and you believe workers should have as much value as shareholders, then you're a job caser too. You can be anybody. And we're going to try to make it easier through tools to figure this out. We're going to empower you through a community that supports you. And then we're going to advocate from that volume. And that's a big part of our broader vision, Vinnie. I think that this notion that we have of capitalism being out of balance, I think that it's the mantra of shareholder value has gone a little far. And we need to bring it back a little bit towards worker value for stability. And our sense is if we can harness a huge success of lots of volume, then of people, then we can harness that consumer dollar and reward good employers, which will force other employers to treat workers well too. So for example, when Delta Airlines did $1.5 billion windfall bonus to employees, February 14th, 2020, instead of just doing another shareholder buyback, we told all of our members nationwide, fly Delta. Now, we did not have a relationship with Delta. We were rewarding an employer that treats workers well, not just saying work there, no, fly Delta, spend your consumer dollars there, knowing that if we get an effect change there, then United and Southwest and everyone else will have to treat workers well too. So there's a vision on how we can succeed at the micro scale for workers and then translate at the macro scale to advocate into policy and boardrooms for them.
By the way, Ed Bastian at Delta, he's also very customer responsive. He's probably the most responsive CEO there is. I'll send him an email and sometimes I'll hear back within 3 minutes. So.
Well, they probably don't even know we did this. So feel free to let them know that we did this for him. I guess the problem is we're going to
send me a link. I will send him that.
Thank you very much. I'll do that. We were actually going to see if there was any kind of a bump, but then COVID hit and like nobody flew, right? So it kind of bad timing for that particular advocacy. We've achieved great scale. Jobcase Inc. is jobcase.com and technology that powers a whole bunch of other sites. We power subsidiary entities that have transactional job boards. Our job results power many, many sites across the internet for their job results. We work with Mayor Garzetti for Find Your Future LA for Opportunity Youth. We work with Secretary of Commerce Raimondo. She used to be Governor Raimondo of Rhode Island for their Back to Work program. We work with West Virginia. We work with the Urban League. The more things that we can power with our technology, the more value for our members, where they keep all their stuff, their information, and they're essentially a portable employee folder way we look at it in one place. And then also the more data that we can get that then is from a business strategy, that's kind of the data mode, but from our member service, it allows us to be better service to our members with that data. So that scales quite large. ComScore has currently got us.
What's the revenue model? Workers pay or?
No, we're absolutely free to workers. At the end of the day, the business model is as simple as most social platforms. We grow members, we increase percent active, and we monetize access to them. So today, 90% of the monetization of access to them is talent acquisition at HR departments. And so, whether it's Amazon, FedEx, UHG, Target, UPS, et cetera, the products are job promotion or event promotion or brand promotion. They're trying to hire our members as the main way at this moment. But that's not where we stop. If we are advocates and a platform for people in their entire work life, then obviously as we keep growing, there's education, there's coaching, there's financial services.
Right.
But at this moment in this market, we're focused on talent acquisition. We have about 20 million monthly active uniques and very large in terms of our footprint, including hiring events. We're about 4,000 of those events that we host either virtually or physically for employers as well.
So the big difference from other job sites is you're dealing more with the, like you say, the baristas, the trade jobs, and so on. Is there a big difference? Are they as savvy about social platforms as white collar workers are? What do you find? What's the big difference?
I appreciate you asking that. They're completely as savvy, completely as savvy. I think that you and I both know plenty of people that are very educated, might not be that smart. There's plenty of people that aren't very educated and are brilliant, right? I don't think education has an attribute on savviness online. I think there's really the big perspective I would have about the 80% of the workforce versus knowledge workers is that there's not a difference. It's just a different access point. I think that when we watch LinkedIn, it's really constructed about first and second degree connections. So it ends up being a lot of self-promotion, right? I'll say, here's what I did this weekend, and I wait for the likes to roll in and a little bit of a, endorphin drip as I consume that gamification, right? Jobcase is about community helping each other. You'll have conversations on Jobcase that are much more raw and honest in terms of exposing concerns, right? So you'll have a conversation, might say, is this college degree for nothing? I can't pay my rent and my student loans both. You can say, how come ageism is so tough for me? Nobody will hire me. You know, it can oftentimes come from a seat of anxiety. And then you see other people rally and say, well, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Et cetera. So the savviness with social platforms, with tools or whatever, no different. The way it's used is different, much more communal, much more supportive, much more raw. Because I think it's more about discovering. And I think that that's one of the things that we see in the ecosystem of labor and why we're such a proponent of skills-based hiring. I think when you hear this notion of skills-based hiring, you know, my product team, my engineering team, it's going to be years before somebody doesn't want to look at, have you been a product manager before? Have you been an engineer before? But when you get down to like what is ONIT code zone 1 to 3 labor, it's much more fungible. We get 50, 70,000 of our members a year jobs in e-tailing warehouse facilities. When you're looking for someone to go into one of these facilities for sorting packages and things like this, it doesn't matter what's on their resume. It matters what they're interested in doing, right? So they could have been a former insurance agent, a call center person, a cashier, a waiter. You know, it's not like that. So therefore, you're breaking down those skills. What that also means, Vinnie, is the domain, the radar, the number of options on your radar are really large. And then that's our obligation to say, how can we help you discover what skills do you have? How can those apply? What are the jobs that might be really interesting to you? What are the benefits that come from there? So I think those are the adjustments, not so much savviness, but thinking about, well, there's more of a breadth of opportunity, and there's more discovery that's needed, and there's more community that's needed to support one another, those kind of observations. I think what's interesting about our perspective is it's a paradox in the sense of, in order to serve the 80% of the workforce, who's needed to build the platform that serves them are, you know, MIT data scientists and Carnegie Mellon software engineers and et cetera. So we have like all this incredible data. We're affiliated with MIT CSAIL, but we every day have a community of people talking very honestly about what's going on. So it's a very interesting perspective, which is leading to a lot of thought leadership in terms of contributing to conversations of what's happening, such as this one. We've recently added, because we have a really strong board member, a motion of buying companies as well as building organically. So we think that we are very aware that at this moment, we have, I guess I'll use the word paradox one more time. Another paradox is we're very, very large, but the brand isn't out there yet. I think it's going to be changing a lot in the next year. A lot of part of the reason it's not known in certain circles is if you don't know how a Dunkin' Donuts cashier got their job or what's doing next, you're probably not going to see us so much. That's part of the reason. There's kind of different worlds that investors work in maybe than others. But the other one is the evolution of our product and experience that we're really leaning into quite hard right now on a number of fronts. So, you know, you come to the site and it's pretty clean in terms of resources, jobs, community, because I think it's a social platform. The main thing we focus on is how can you discover things and how does the community help you? But it is Jobcase. You're going to want to be able to get employment. When we go to the community, this is just, you know, right now, opened it up today. And just to see the kind of conversations. So let's just see what's happening right now. This fellow, Randy Webb, is posted to an ageism group, says my resume is impeccable and references solid. I'm completely snubbed. And he's got 39 people suggesting or how to deal with ageism, choices around it, how they've dealt with it, et cetera. You come down here, Tricia Hendricks is talking about unemployment. People are saying the challenges they're having there. As we come down,
very practical, like you say, almost raw, but very practical.
Very, very practical. How do I get stuff done? This person wants a career at Hershey's. Anybody know how to get it done? This person, James, is upset. He missed an interview. So someone supporting him and telling him how to deal when you oversleep and miss an interview. So it's just a very raw community. What you see is, this one popped up on my feed yesterday. So I just clicked it for this conversation. That was interesting. Here, Gloria she's really trying to figure out how to work remote. There's now 75 people telling her how to do it, different resources, et cetera. This is really important because there's parts of our economy, Vinnie, as you know, it's the informal networks. Think about the 22 million people that are felons. Like, it doesn't matter what some blog says if a company will hire you. You want to know from another person, will they really do that at this branch? So it's a very raw in the community. In jobs, our job section, I guess the only thing that I really highlight here is very differentiating at the moment is we put the tools in your hand. Most companies will aggregate jobs everywhere. We're just trying to make it easier. We're member first. So we put our employers' jobs here. We also put our friends from Glassdoor, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, their jobs can be here too, because we don't mind if our members are going to find a great job through Indeed instead of Jobcase. Our goal is they find a great job, right? So anybody who's trying to help a member is a friend of ours, not a competitor. You mentioned very practical. When we hit COVID last year, we stood up like within our resource centers, lots of stuff here, our unemployment resource center. And we realized most people didn't know how to apply for it at the rate we were doing. So we put every single state's resources, how to apply, you go through there, here's the links, here's where you do it. So, we try to be responsive like that. So most of what Jobcase is, provide the tools, but then let the community help. And so where the great affinity comes from is usually not people saying, oh, thank you, Jobcase, like it's me or somebody here. It's thank you, Steve, or thank you, Dante or Nancy. They're thanking each other for helping them figure out how to navigate it. That's where the real power comes from. And so that's really what it's about. We do a lot with governments and nonprofits because they find that our scale is a lot. So in Governor Raimondo, for example, she had a back to work program that was really wonderful. It was funded by the the CARES Act, like $40-some million to get Rhode Islanders that have been displaced during the height of COVID, free education. And then there were companies like Electric Boat and Bank of America and CVS that if they didn't have the skills, there were schools that would educate them and then guarantee them a job. The problem is, how do you get the word out? Like people were having a problem discovering this. And that's what we see all over the place. There are wonderful nonprofits trying to help workers kind of navigate this future of work. There's really well-meaning policy teams trying to do it. There's good HR groups that are trying to do it, but it's the glue in the middle is kind of missing. And I think we figured out that that's really where Jobcase excels. We have this tremendous reach. We've got people that help each other. And when we get a nonprofit and a government and companies and we bring Jobcasers and the people together, like magic happens. And so I'm going to close. I'm going to show you this little 2.5-minute thing about some success we had on one of these aggregations in West Virginia. So the punchline, I'll just let that sit. So I'll do the close before then. Jobcase is a platform for workers. It's a complement to LinkedIn. We focus on 80% of the members. Because we are now the third largest online destination, this is where most high volume hiring and employers come when they want to get great workers on their talent acquisition. That's the core business model, and have lots of products to help employers promote their brand, get access to our members, and et cetera. And I think Workday really appreciates that, but they also appreciate that we're the complement to them in terms of there has to be co-ownership of data going forward to make this whole ecosystem work. If people are moving around a lot, they have to take their reviews with them. They have to take their all their new upskilling with them. If you're a client of a Workday or an iSIMS or et cetera, your information's in a silo. You need the ability of the employees to leave and come back, and all that information keeps growing. So we're a complement there. When we're the place that's very agnostic, we'll work with anybody. This is our members' information, not ours, and they can use it anywhere. That becomes glue in a lots of ways, such as the one I'm going to show you, where West Virginia is the only state in the nation with dropping population. They're very frustrated. There's great opportunities, but they got to get the word out. And so they use Jobcase to help them promote job fairs with nonprofits that are going to educate people, and with employers that want to grow there. And this is the result.
I love West Virginia and I always wanted to stay here, but one of the issues that I've always felt is that there wasn't a lot of opportunities.
West Virginia loses too many people. We've had a declining population for decades, which impacts everything. That threatens our ability to attract new employers to the state who depend on a great workforce.
For some reason, the stereotype is, if I get a good education, I've got to leave. And they all want to stay, but they just don't think they can make a good living. We have thousands and thousands of quality, good-paying jobs that people just don't know about.
We have much lower cost of living, lower overhead. We have that opportunity to compete and really help the state grow.
Anyone who has an interest in getting into the technology sector, Newforce offers a clear pathway for where to start. We're not training students for hypothetical jobs, but for jobs that are already here at home in West Virginia.
When my husband asks how my day went, I can show him a completed web application. He's amazed.
Jobcase has been such an important partner for this program in ensuring that as many people as possible can hear about this opportunity.
I didn't think opportunities like this existed. It's an amazing place to be.
Programs like Newforce are incredibly important to the future of West Virginia.
I absolutely feel more confident in my future.
Jobcase helped this job fair to be the biggest we've ever had in the state of West Virginia. I mean, in history. It was a culmination of everybody coming together for the good.
There's so many different places that are hiring.
Jobcase had me prepared. They gave me the things I needed to work on and bring with me, and it had me very prepared.
We've had an excellent turnout and positive response.
A lot of different people actually showed me go to this place and then go to that place, so they helped each other out.
We are currently about 150 employees in our Charleston, West Virginia office, and in the next 3 months I'm trying to double that.
I just moved back to West Virginia, and so I'm looking for something that makes me happy.
I have a little girl and I have a little boy. I want to do better for them.
We can connect the dots so people know where to look for what their interest is and what kind of skill sets or education they have to have, what kind of a life they can live. That's the information we need to get to everybody in West Virginia. We're counting on Jobcase to help us do that.
So you bring all these people with good things together that in terms of programs and intent, but you need a platform to unite it and communicate and has scale. That's what we're bringing. And so I wanted to share that because a lot of people listen to you, and if there's governments, nonprofits, businesses that care about workers, we're here to be a partner to try to get that word out and bring it all together.
That's very encouraging. Thank you.